So before I even begin with this, full disclaimer, I don't know anything about rap, the rap industry, rappers, anything. The first time I heard about this guy, Kendrick Lamar, is it? Was now, with the Drake thing. Just for full disclaimer, I've heard of Drake. I've heard of Drake. I know at one time he had a crush on Rihanna and so on and so forth. I don't know his music. I cannot identify even one song, and I hear it and I'm like, oh, that's Drake. I don't know his music. I definitely don't know this Kendrick guy, and I have no idea this song, this hit song, Not Like Us, that Kendrick Lamar apparently made, that has led to this lawsuit that Drake has filed two lawsuits, one in New York and apparently one in Texas. I think according to the New York Times I was reading this morning. So this song, Not Like Us, I did Google it. I Googled it. I started to listen and then I stopped because it's not my vibe. It's just not my vibe. I'm not interested in this kind of music, right? So there's that. Just so we're clear, okay? Now, so Drake has filed legal documents in New York and Texas accusing Universal Music Group, the record label representing both him and Kendrick Lamar, of unfairly promoting Lamar's hit song Not Like Us at his, Drake's, expense, right? Drake alleges that UMG, Universal Music Group, manipulated streaming platforms using bots and influenced radio stations through payola. I guess you guys know what that is, to boost Lamar's song, which has become a massive success. I mean, Lamar's song, Not Like Us, got like 915 million downloads, I guess. I mean, it's like a lot. He got like a lot of play with this song. I mean, it literally went viral. Okay. And Drake is not happy about it. So, well, it says here 915 million Spotify streams and also Grammy nominations, right? So, Drake has filed suit. He's called foul. He's basically saying, well, first, he's criticizing UMG for releasing Not Like Us, which contains lyrics accusing Drake of heinous acts like pedophilia, right? And Drake is saying that this is harming his reputation. It's defamatory, right? The petitions also claim that UMG had the power to censor or edit the song, but chose not to, right? And then that's the Texas filing. The New York filing includes allegations of a deal giving Spotify a reduced licensing fee for streaming Lamar's song, while the Texas filing hints, as I said, at the potential defamatory claims about Drake being a pedophile who preys on underage children, basically. Right? Now, UMG has denied the accusations launched by Drake. UMG has called these accusations baseless and has asserted that it only participates in ethical marketing practices, right? The filings are preliminary and aim to gather evidence, possibly leading to lawsuits. So we don't really know yet that these are full-fledged lawsuits or they're just sort of preliminary petitions that have been filed. Um, anyway, Drake's lawsuits, whatever you want to call them, preliminary filings, follow a heated feud between him and Lamar that has played out for a whole year apparently through diss tracks. So in rap, you have these things called diss tracks, right? And rappers like to diss each other in the tracks. And Lord have mercy, as I said, I googled the song and I'm like, this is not it's not my vibe. I'm not interested in this kind of stuff, right? But if people love it. I mean, I've seen people talking on YouTube about the fact that Drake is upset because viewers prefer Lamar's music and how they love this song, Not Like Us, and then I can't even get through the first few minutes of this song. I mean, I'm like, it's appalling. in fact, in my opinion, right? It's just I derive no, you know, like when you eat or you have something to eat, food has to be pleasurable. There's certain things in life that gives you pleasure. You want pleasure, and music is one of those things for me. When I hear music, it has to hit a certain chord in my ears, so that I can relax into it and just feel it. And, I'm just not feeling that. And I don't understand the kind of world I live in where this kind of stuff makes people feel good. Like, I mean, unless I had the wrong song, I'm like, what is this? What is this? But then, for me, broadly speaking, rap is like that anyway. All of it. It's like, oh my God, you know? And you have like women, the things they say about women, the things they say about each other. I'm like, look, I'm no angel over here, but there's a certain level of like, I don't know even what the word is that I need in my life, right? And y'all, music is disgusting. It's gross. It's filthy. I have no time for it, no space for it in my life. So the two of you, if Drake makes music like this, I have no idea about Drake's music. I don't know. Listen, you know what I like? I like tango music. I like jazz. The more instrumental it is, the better. I don't want to hear what you have to say. Just give me the sounds. That's kind of like my thing with music. Or silence, right? Just silence. I don't want to hear anything, right? That's it. I digress. Now, so what can Universal argue here? Okay, so first, they can say that Drake has not presented any evidence of wrongdoing. Apparently, in the papers he submitted to the court, there's a lack of substantiation. He has not substantiated anything, right? His filings lack concrete evidence to support claims of manipulating streaming numbers or engaging in payola schemes. What is payola? I have no idea, but whatever that is, you guys know, I'm sure. I have no idea, okay? I just found out about, you know, I'm the last to know these things. I'm like, I wake up, I'm like, what? This was happening 10 years. Really? Okay. No clue, right? So I think I mean, not payola. I think the UMG, the music group that Drake is suing, can argue that his allegations are based on hearsay. I think Drake referenced somebody in a YouTube interview, and they can say that these are insufficient as proof in court. Who is Drake's lawyer, by the way? I have no idea. The other thing that they can argue is that, as far as the evidence of wrongdoing, is that, um, it's part of their marketing strategy and distribution agreements, right? In other words, it's like an industry norm to do what they did. It's not like they were hiding to do anything. Also, they can say it was just a business decision, right? Where they have artistic freedom, and that releasing the song Not Like Us falls under their discretion, as business people, as part of their commitment to artistic freedom and supporting artists' creative expressions. It's not about defaming anybody or destroying Drake's reputation. It's just artistic freedom, right? And they can also argue that they have no duty to censor Kendrick, right? UMG can say that they're not obligated to censor lyrics because somebody doesn't like it, unless the lyrics explicitly violate laws or contractual agreements. And I don't think Drake had any contractual agreements with UMG that they would not allow another artist to say horrible, vile things about him in their music, right? I don't think so, but I don't know. I have not seen these contracts. Now, the other thing is, UMG can argue that, they have a neutral role in all of this. They treat artists equally. They don't owe Drake anything more than, excuse me, they don't owe Drake anything more than they owe Kendrick, or Kendrick anything more than they owe Drake. They benefit from the success of both Drake and Kendrick's music, frankly. And so they can say that it's illogical to accuse them of deliberately trying to undermine Drake over Kendrick, right? Because they would lose if they were to do that. So they have a neutral role, right? They could argue that equal treatment of artists and balanced support. They could provide evidence of their promotional efforts for Drake's tracks as well to counter claims of favoritism. They can show the court, look, I mean, Drake is saying that we favored Kendrick and we did this for Kendrick and da da da, but here's what we did for Drake. I mean, and it's I'm sure that it's quite substantial, right? Now, as far as the defamation goes, I mean, clearly the first thing that they can look at is the First Amendment protections. Um, I mean, UMG could argue that artistic expression, as provided by Kendrick, is protected under the First Amendment of the United States. While the lyrics may be harsh, the UMG could argue that these lyrics could also be interpreted as opinions or exaggerations typical in the rap genre, but not factual statements intended to harm. I mean, I think I would disagree there. If I'm Drake's attorney, I mean, these aren't opinions. In my opinion, you're a pedophile. I don't think so. That's not something that you can opine about someone else in public in this manner, especially not in the climate in which we are with the Diddy's doing hard time in jail for, related offenses, and you're going to put out a rap song calling somebody a pedophile and you don't have proof? No, I don't think this is covered by the First Amendment, but I'm just saying that UMG can argue that it is, and maybe a court will agree with them. We don't know. But they can also argue that there was no malice, right? So for a defamation claim to succeed, I believe that Drake would need to prove that UMG acted with actual malice by knowingly distributing false information, right? And UMG would argue it had no such intent. But I mean, I think in terms of the defamation claims, I'm kind of with Drake on this. I mean, clearly you knew, right, that this was false. I mean, and if you didn't know that it was false, and you have, if someone's saying something like that about one of your artists and this is someone you represent, you're going to ask some questions at least before you let this music out there. I think Drake has a point with the defamation case. Now, in terms of UMG, though, we're looking at UMG's, I keep digressing. They may want to show that they're in compliance with the law at all times, right? That any promotional activities that they engage in, including deals with Spotify, with the bots and all that, or radio stations, or the reduction of fees or whatever, complied with relevant laws and industry standards. And once that's the case, it makes it very complicated for Drake to prevail. As far as the bots and the payola claims, UMG could argue that if third-party promoters used questionable tactics, UMG neither endorsed nor authorized such actions, distancing themselves from liability. So Drake would have to go at these specific bots and payola people and not UMG, because this is a third-party entity, unless Drake can prove otherwise, whether contractually or otherwise, that this is not the case, right? Um, Now, the other thing is UMG could highlight that as the label for both artists, Drake and Kendrick, it benefits from all streams and sales of the music of both of these artists, regardless of which song performs better. And so they could argue that it would be irrational to harm one artist in favor of another. And so the judge or the jury, if this went to trial, would have to decide if they agree with that position or not. There are a couple other things I think that UMG could argue, such as that, like licensing agreements, for example. They could argue that any favorable terms provided to platforms like Spotify were standard business negotiations, right? And not indicative of bias or an intent to undermine Drake's music, right? And in that case, Drake is sort of left with, an empty sack unless he has something to substantiate his claims. Um, the other thing is you have a procedural issue here, right? Where you could say that these are premature claims, right? And UMG could assert that Drake's petitions are speculative and that they're filed before he has any substantial evidence to back up his claims, right? He has gathered no evidence. He talks about some YouTube interview. I mean, are you kidding me? Did his lawyer actually say that? I mean, is that all you have? It's if that's all you have, it's a nothing burger, right? And so they could, UMG could say that it's speculative and that he filed before he has any substantial evidence. And so therefore the it should not proceed to full litigation, right? He needs to go get some evidence to back up these claims first. They could also talk about jurisdiction. UMG could question the validity of filing claims in two different jurisdictions. I mean, why did he file in New York and Texas, right? I mean, I'm not really sure. I don't know. Maybe you guys know. I don't know. So if UMG believes that one location does not have proper standing to hear the case, they could say that, the case should be thrown out because of the venue, because of the, one of them, either New York or Texas, or both, frankly, don't have jurisdiction. It depends on what their contract says and so on and so forth. Where's their principal place of business, minimum contacts equals fair play and substantial justice, all of that stuff. It really depends. I think UMG's defense in against Drake will aim to demonstrate that, they're professionals and they're neutral, right? And they will paint Drake as filing an unsubstantiated petition driven by personal grievances that, Kendrick beat him out in the the court of public opinion, if you want to call it that. People just prefer Kendrick's music, and that's really all that is. And that this is just sour grapes, that Drake is driven by his personal grievances rather than by legal merit. Now, what does Drake do and what can he argue here? Well, I think his legal position, Drake, would hinge on how well he can substantiate his claims. Because it doesn't seem like he's so far done a very good job of that. One YouTube video. I mean, he has stated no facts, right? Um, I think the strength of Drake's case will really depend on a few factors. It's like, um, does he have legal gravitas here, or is he just someone with sour grapes and he's reacting emotionally to being outperformed by, a fellow rapper? I mean, I don't know. Um, Look, if Drake can provide credible evidence, example, internal documents, third party admissions, expert analyses, etc., showing that Universal Music Group used bots or paid influencers to artificially boost Kendrick Lamar's streams, then it's possible that he could have a fairly good case here, a significant case even, because such tactics would violate industry norms or contractual agreements and, importantly, could harm Drake financially and reputationally. So if he gets his hands on internal documents, third party admissions, expert analysis, and to get those internal documents, I mean, it's going to have to come through the court. He's going to have to do his, he's going to have to get a court to agree to, order them to provide him with these documents, which could be destroyed before they get to trial anyway. But yeah, if he can get his hands on those things, then he might have a case, because it's unclear that it's normal industry behavior to use bots or pay influencers to artificially boost one artist over the other. Clearly, this would cause Drake financial and reputational damage, right? So far, Drake's petition, as I have said, is very speculative, very bare bones, nothing burger, no facts. Their claims like interference, like some reference was made to a YouTube video interview, as I said, but there's been no concrete proof, right? So his accusations are just accusations, they're allegations. They may not stand up in court. Now, defamation versus lyrics, right? Now, as I have said, I'm kind of in the Drake corner with this defamation argument. If he can argue that, this song, Not Like Us, caused reputational harm and that UMG knowingly allowed false and defamatory content to be published, if a jury is convinced, right, then yeah, he could win, you know, he could win this aspect of the lawsuit, right? And certainly it could form the basis of a defamation case, right? If he could show that UMG knowingly allowed this false and defamatory content to be published, which is what this is. This song is a publication of defamatory speech. This is speech. This song is speech, right? And it's defamatory if it's false, right? Now, the challenge is that rap lyrics, I mean, my personal feelings about it aside, right, are often viewed as artistic hyperbole protected under the First Amendment, right? Right? Excuse me. Uh, and courts might be reluctant to treat such statements as literal accusations. I think it's an accusation. Drake thinks it's an accusation. I think it's a literal accusation. But the court may not agree. I mean, I don't live in the real world where this kind of stuff is concerned. I avoid that kind of stuff. But most other people love it. Of all racial, ethnic, socioeconomic groups, they love it. So whereas I'm like completely scandalized by this and Drake is obviously offended, I mean, the court might be like, look, why is this not First Amendment? I mean, he has a right to, this is artistic freedom. He has a right to say what he wants. It's just a song. Get over it and grow a thicker skin, you know? Drake, as I said, would also have to prove that UMG acted with actual malice, right? Knowingly doing this to cause harm to him, just to be evil, right? And why would they do that? They represent both artists, as I said. Now, if Drake can prove that UMG deliberately favored Lamar's music, example, by reducing Spotify fees or allocating disproportionate marketing resources to Lamar's music, Drake could claim a breach of implied contract or fiduciary duty, right? On the part of UMG. They had a fiduciary duty to him as, one of the people they represent. Or there's an implied breach of contract that, you're not going to allocate disproportionate marketing resources to one artist at my expense. I mean, even though that's not expressly written in our contract, it's implied in the contract. He could try that. However, he would need to show this favoritism materially harmed his career. While then we look at how did his music do in the same time frame as compared to this guy Kendrick, and what were the monetary consequences of that, etc., etc. And maybe we might have something to work with there. The problem is that UMG could say that it's a routine practice to promote some artists over others as part of a strategic business decision, which they are allowed to do. And it is not inherently illegal to do that unless it breaches contractual obligations. And obviously, they don't have any such contract with Drake. Now, I've heard other YouTubers talking about this, that Drake is just a pouting artist, sour grapes, etc., etc. And yes, at present, I would say that the case seems to be largely circumstantial. It has no evidence that has been provided. So his claims come across as sort of a reaction to being outperformed in a high-profile rap feud, right? Rather than, necessarily a legal grievance. Although, again, I take offense with those lyrics, personally. I do think that, but in the rap, I mean, I don't follow rap for that reason. As I said, I mean, I'm not tough enough for rap. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is like a whole, like, what did you just say in your song? Like, what? And you have women dancing to this and twerking. They're enjoying this. Are they hearing what you're saying about them? Yeah, I can't even, girls and boys, I can't, right? But Drake is in the business, so he, obviously he doesn't feel the same way that I do about this. You know what I'm saying? Now, diss tracks, which is what these things are called, these types of songs, and competitive rivalries are a cornerstone of rap culture. I mean, didn't they say somebody shot Biggie? Who shot Biggie and Tupac? Tupac and Biggie? I have no idea. But I hear this all the time. Who shot Biggie? Who shot Tupac? It's all rap, right? It's a cornerstone of rap culture is these rivalries. Diss tracks are the least of it. It's like they literally shoot you in the head, right? So the court in this case might view Drake's complaints as, this is just a tradition where, rappers use hyperbolic insults and, jockeying for dominance. I mean, Kendrick didn't shoot him, he just said some harsh things. And, these things are expected, but not actionable in the court of law. This is what the court and the jury could finally decide. Look, Kendrick Lamar's song, Not Like Us, apparently has outperformed Drake's songs by a lot. But this does not necessarily imply misconduct by the music group, UMG, right? Lamar's success could simply reflect better public reception of that music, and that's all, and Drake just needs to get over it.